Good evening and welcome to our 2025 MCHS AP Government Town Hall. Tonight we are welcome elected officials from our state and county governments to discuss issues of concerns from local residents. Our assembly tonight will consist of two halves, approximately 45 minutes each. After the first half, there will be a brief pause to introduce new moderators. First, we would like to thank the Marshall County Public Library for their use of their facility, Mediacom for videoing tonight's forum, our audience members for attending, and most importantly, our elected officials for taking time out of their busy schedules to be with us tonight. We are live streaming this event via Facebook at MCHS AP Government. Questions will come from the live feed and from our audience members. Audience, if you have a question, please write them on the provided question sheet. If you have further questions, Please raise your hand and we will give you another sheet, and raise your hand when you are ready for a student to take it. If you do not have a question sheet, please raise your hand so we can provide you with one. Although we are here to fully engage with our elected officials, please know we will maintain a level of professionalism and respect. There are certain questions we may not be able to ask due to legal reasons, and we appreciate your cooperation in this matter. Elected officials, please feel free to pass the mic to another member if they wish to add to your comments.
Thank you, Joni. Okay, you want to start?
Okay, hello. We will be asking you guys' first rounds of questions. My name is Lila Lovin, and this is Ian.
Okay. So we'll be starting with Mr. Kevin Spraggs. First question: are there any plans to bring potable water to all citizens of Marshall County?
There's a switch on the front of it. It might not be on.
Can you hear me? Okay. We have to date, I think we've spent about $6 million on water projects. We just recently finished up the Oak Level water project. There was a new water tower installed out there several years ago with Water Vision 2020. The line extensions were never done. You know, it all falls back on funding. We were able to do line extensions all throughout that area. We are constantly looking for funding sources for that. You know, a lot of people, they don't realize that the county doesn't own the water districts. So any time we can help them expand and grow, we certainly try to do that. And I would like nothing better than to see water at every single household in this county.
Okay, our next question is for Mr. Eddie McGuire. What is being done to pressure citizens to clean up their vacant properties?
Eddie's not here tonight. He had to work.
I don't mind answering that. To clean up the properties in general, we have a process where someone can file a nuisance complaint through my office, and my deputy judge handles that. And there's a process there. We don't want to have to find someone, but as long as they clean the property up, we can avoid that. But there has been a time or two, unfortunately, where the process has gone on so long, it has actually resulted in foreclosure. That's not anything we drive around and search for. It's done on a complaint-only basis. But if we do get a complaint, we do take it serious, and it is followed up on and appropriate steps taken.
Thank you. This is a question for Mr. Marty Barrett. Are there any plans in the works to expand Highway 68 from Draftonville throughout Morse Highway?
To expand Highway 68?
Yes, from Draftonville throughout Morse Highway.
Like a
Yeah.
4-lane? No, which that's a state highway, but they are in the process of right now, if you'll notice, they've been trimming all the trees off the right of way, all the overhang trees, everything. They're cutting it all that back. Highway 68, it's been a multi-year process. They're going to straighten, I don't know how big a job they're going to straighten, but they are going to straighten some curves out. They're going to address a few dangerous areas from from Reedland all the way to Jonathan Creek is, in the next few years, it's going to get a lot of attention. And so you're going to see this year they're trimming everything off the right-of-way from Jonathan Creek to Reedland. And then they're going to, after that, they're going to come back and try to patch some of the really rough stuff. And then in the next year or two, they're going to really come in and do some corrections on it.
Thank you. Our next question will be for Mr. Dustin Brown. Are there any there are concerns about the impacts the plants have in Calvert on the health of the residents. What actions are being taken to make sure that the health of those who live in Calvert aren't damaged by the plants?
That's a good question. I'm with the Calvert City Council, if you don't know me, and we do take that very serious. We're poked and prodded. Lots of studies over the last few decades have taken place in Calvert City, and they've studied just about everything that there is to study. And so that's federal. EPA takes care of a lot of that, and there are other groups that come in, but it is all being monitored as far as levels of airborne chemicals and things that you can breathe, as well as things that could be in the water and soil. And as far as City Council is concerned, the safety of the citizens is the #1 priority, and everyone that lives there and works there. So anything that comes to light that maybe should be taken care of as far as what the industry can do and the actual plants there, we want to make sure that they are going by those regulations and that they are sticking to that. And I feel like the government, federal government, state, Kentucky Department of Air Quality does a good job with that as well.
Thank you. This question is for Mr. Jason Darnold. What is the biggest criminal issue you see in our near future?
Hello, can you hear me? Was that in the near future?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In the near future, which is already, I think, starting to manifest itself, and I think the fellow city to my right here would agree with me, is the number of mental health cases that we're seeing. Some of those may be, a lot of those are probably tied in with drug abuse. Some are just straight up mental issue cases. But inevitably, a lot of these folks, unfortunately, end up committing some type of crime. And the criminal justice system is where they land. And unfortunately, that's not the best place for them. We're starting to see some legislative reforms, and we've also got a new mental health court that are in Paducah, in McCracken County, and we have recently referred some folks there. I'm not 100% familiar with it, but if it's anything like drug court, I think it will be a good place for them to go. It's kind of a pilot project in some other parts of the state. But those specialty courts, which we've talked about that before at some of these forums, are there to address special issues, and they have rules in drug court and the specialty courts that a criminal court doesn't necessarily go by the same rules. If you catch what I'm saying, so different people are involved. You've got social workers, you've got healthcare professionals, all that are involved in those types of cases. So. But that is a huge issue right now, and I'm hoping that we see success out of McCracken County's mental health court, and I hope it catches on. Senator?
And I'll add a little bit to that on the juvenile side. For the last 2 years, we've been trying to get a bill passed that addresses the issue of mental health for kids that are committed to the Department of Juvenile Justice or to the Cabinet for Health and Family Services, because oftentimes those are the same kids. And the effort that we're making is to put in a system which would provide for proper placement of these kids. And along with that, we have requested that a mental health detention facility be built in the Commonwealth, and that would be at Central State Hospital. And right now, the kids that are the most acutely mentally ill that are DJJ involved, and I'm sure some of you all have heard the stories about this the last few years, they're sitting in cells in various facilities throughout the state, not with not a lot of care. sometimes in abhorred conditions. There was a young woman that was living in a cell, often naked, sleeping in feces. She did not get any treatment until she turned 18 years old, and she was committed to Western State Hospital. That is unacceptable for our state. Unfortunately, when it comes to mental health, with our juveniles that are the most acute, there is simply not the treatment available. And right now, as it stands, the hospitals that serve these kids, once those kids are there, the law has been interpreted that no matter what they do, you cannot kick them out. And what's happening, and you probably read in Louisville with some of the facilities, these kids are assaulting staff, and staff are leaving these facilities. They can't keep staff. Part of the bill that we've proposed would create a process where these kids would be evaluated, and they would be removed from that facility and put in the juvenile justice mental health facility. We discovered that once we started this process, that South Carolina is already building one of these facilities. So ours, should we get this passed next session, will be the second in the country to deal with that issue. And it is a growing issue for these kids. Mental health issues, those with severe autism that have behavioral issues, we don't have places for these kids. We don't have treatment. So that is a huge problem that we're trying to address in the state. And if we don't address these issues while they're young, then it's just going to continue on, and they'll be in the court system, and we'll have individuals that really need to be in homes somewhere that are living in hotels in our cities and towns throughout the state. That's happening. That's happening in this community. So we have a long way to go in that area, and it is adults, and it's on the juvenile side also.
Okay, thank you. Our next question is for Sheriff Hilbridge. With the new sports gaming casino opening in Calvert, what are challenges from a law enforcement standpoint do you anticipate?
Well, first off, it's in Calvert, so I'm thankful for that. But, primarily with that type of establishment, obviously, alcohol is the thing that affects us a lot. We go on many, many calls where if it's fights and domestics, DUIs, crashes, those kind of things, I would suspect that would probably be our number one problem out of it would be alcohol-related events, particularly leaving that establishment, whether that be motor vehicle accidents or DUI arrest. But luckily, Calvert City is, Dustin, y'all got that, right? But that would be my primary concern. It will bring some economic value to the community for sure, and we're glad to see that. But there's always problems with any kind of establishment that has alcohol at it.
I'd like to add, if I can add, Calvert is hiring one extra police officer this coming year. That's part of the reason in anticipation of that coming on, among other reasons.
Thank you. This question is for Mr. Freeland and Senator Carroll. In 2018, a school shooting rocked our county, state, and surrounding areas to its core. On the state level, what legislation do you support to help aid in this crisis?
Well, one of the first things we did was Senate Bill 1, and Danny worked on that more than I did. That was the first year that I came in, was 2019. And I was fortunate enough to be the primary sponsor on the House side, but that was one, it was a model bill that was the first in the nation, that was the School Safety and Resiliency Act. And it was one that worked with the superintendents across the state, worked with groups that know what they're doing as far as hardening schools as targets, working with school systems, and really was a groundbreaking bill and made our schools much, much safer. And a lot of states have modeled what we did here in Kentucky, and they're doing exactly that. And I'll let Danny expand on it because he did a lot of the work, a lot more work on it than I did, but I was proud to be a small part of it, though.
Thank you. And this is something that just about every session we do pass some legislation that affects this. And the biggest challenge is to get enough SROs in the state. I think this last session, or maybe it was the session before, we expanded those who would be eligible to be SROs, former military. And so we're trying to create more of a pool. I had a bill a few years ago that created the Kentucky State Police School Resource Officer Program. The commissioner at the time wanted that program. The commissioner now did not want that program. And at this point, they have not implemented that. So hopefully at some point that will happen. We have also, I had a bill a few years ago that allowed school districts to create police departments within their school district. So it's actually a police department, and I know McCracken does that. And what that does, it makes more grant dollars accessible to our school districts for security. And it's really caught on throughout the state, and many school districts are doing that. And it works very well. The model that we have in Marshall works very well. I know the Sheriff's Department does an outstanding job with our schools and protecting. And so the school districts have a lot available to them. We've also invested a lot in mental health in the school districts for the students, and we work on that every year. And that's, as the judge has said, prosecutor just said, I'll give you a promotion or a demotion. I'm not sure which that would be. But that's something that we're working on to try to identify the students that are struggling within the school systems and, cut these types of things off and prevent them from happening on the front end of it. But it's an ongoing battle, and is there ever enough funding to do everything that we need to do? There's not. And you all know as well as I do, if someone has their mindset to do that, it's going to be very difficult to stop them. If it's not done at the school, it can be done in other locations that aren't as secure. And it's very important that the staff, the teachers at the schools are very diligent about keeping their eyes open, and they do that. And I think the schools have gotten very well attuned to that, as have the students. But it's always a risk that we face. And but I do assure you that it remains a priority. And my biggest fear was a year or two after it happened here that it would be forgotten and things would just kind of go back to where nobody was talking about it. That hasn't happened. And we are continuing to try to strengthen that and invest more money and to create more opportunities to put officers in the school, more training. There's talk about certain teachers being allowed to carry firearms concealed and having some level of training. Not sure how I feel about that, but all of those things are being considered, and as we make those efforts to protect our students.
Thank you. Our next question is for Mr. Kevin Farley. What did the city learn from the recent flooding disaster, and how is the city preparing for future flooding?
Well, we had done a lot of improvements to especially on the north end of town. Unfortunately, there are some things that we have no control over at this point. We're looking at what we can do. There is a levee that was constructed after a flood several years ago. It is private property, so we would have to get permission to go in there and make necessary repairs to that levee to be able to keep North Benton from flooding like it did. That's something we are looking at doing and contacting the owners to do that. Keeping Clarks River cleaned out as much as possible is another thing. So we are taking steps. We're reaching out to the property owners, looking at increasing the levee and doing a few other things like that to hopefully keep us from having that type of flood again. Getting that much rain in that short a period of time does not, happen that often. I remember one back when I was a kid that flooded a little worse than that even. And the levee that is in place now, even though it needs repairs, helped, still not doing the job. So we're looking to improve that to try to make that levee do the job a little better.
Thank you. This question is for Mr. Jason Darnell and Mr. Matt Hilbert. Has there been any increase in alcohol-related crime as a result of Marshall County's decision to no longer be a dry county?
Well, before I answer that question, I forgot on my first question to thank you guys for putting this on. To all the kids. I know you guys put a lot of work into it. Coach Carrick puts a lot of work into it. MediaCom is here filming, and all you folks in the audience. This is something that I look forward to each year. I will admit I get a little nervous up here because I wish y'all would give me the questions ahead of time, but maybe that's too much to ask. But I do know that you put a lot of work into it, and I appreciate being invited here. So thank you for that. The question was, have I noticed, or have we? I guess we have noticed any increase in criminal activity since 2015. So it's been, is that right? 2015, 10 years. Is that right? Time flies. Not really. I mean, Matt and his guys are out there on the field, so he may disagree with me. Okay, he may have the numbers, but as far as when you hear like alcohol and crimes, one of the first things that comes to mind is DUI, and what I have noticed over the years, and this goes back even before 2015. Is that the number of DUIs that we have that are not alcohol related are way up. I mean, way up. Alcohol related DUIs, I mean, have probably plateaued, maybe even gone down. I don't have the numbers to back that up. I mean, I haven't looked at that. I haven't looked at that data. But your standard, DUI alcohol case isn't near as common, in my opinion, as it used to be. But the drug DUIs, definitely, they keep going up and up. There may even be more. We may even have crossed the 50% mark on that. We may have more DUIs that are strictly drug-related than alcohol-related.
Okay, so that was one of the things I looked at when I became sheriff to see about the statistics on fatalities and DUIs since we went wet. I don't have the numbers in front of me exactly, but actually fatalities as related to DUI-related fatalities has gone down since we went wet. Injury accidents have actually went down a little bit since we went wet. And I think a lot of that has to do with people not driving as far for their alcohol. Before you may go get impaired in McCracken County and they drive all the way through Marshall and have a higher probability of a wreck. Now, that being said, I certainly believe that violent crime has gone up drastically since then. And I'm not saying that correlation causation is the same thing, that's because of the alcohol, but we've certainly seen a lot of events here in Marshall that we had never seen in the last several years. And I think that's going to be nationwide too, not necessarily just an alcohol issue, but certainly a concern. A good example of that, we had Nick Spears in January of 2024 was shot at and had to return fire at a guy that was stealing a utility trailer. That's rare for Marshall County. We had Jody Cash killed on our front steps. That's rare for Marshall County. We've had a school shooting. That's rare. We've also had a guy that we engaged in Callaway County had to shoot, SRT call out. So those type crimes that I've been doing this 26 years, we never hardly would see anything like that. It was rare, and now it feels like every year there's something that's a major violent crime. So that's very concerning to me. But like I said, back to your question with DUI, or alcohol, I don't know those are necessarily related, but violent crime certainly seems to be a larger problem than it used to be.
Thank you. Our next question is for Mr. Dustin Brown. How important are the chemical plants to Calvert and Marshall County's economics? What would happen if the plants were lost, if one of the plants were lost, or if one was gained?
The chemical plants, well, obviously they're very important to the economy of Marshall County and Calvert and surrounding counties. People, I don't remember I've seen the actual numbers on the percentage of jobs in Marshall County are at the chemical plants, and it's a lot higher than I realized, and I don't remember that, so I'm not going to quote it, but it would be, there's bigger and smaller plants, but anytime there's jobs lost and, it happens, it's a big deal. And especially if there's a big layoff or if a plant shut down, it would be, it could be a very big deal. And if a new one is gained, it's a great opportunity. But they are very, very important to the local economy.
Thank you.
Going back to that first question, that does not give them a pass if there were to be any kind of issue You know, as far as like EPA or that kind of stuff goes, it doesn't give them a pass just because they are important. Safety still is the first, number one concern. And right now, we feel like Calvert is a very safe place to live. So I don't even know if I mentioned that, but it is, looking at everything that's been brought forth, we feel very good about the state of where the chemical plants are as far as environmentally.
Thank you. This question is for Senator Danny Carroll. With so many environmental groups against the passing of SB 89 in Kentucky and the governor's veto, what is your justification for voting to override the veto?
I don't know that I'm the best one to answer that. That's not a bill that I was very much involved in. Do you? If somebody can elaborate more on that, who had that question? Yeah, can you elaborate a little more?
SB 89 was the changes in the regulation for water in Kentucky. And the bill passed, it was vetoed by the governor. And then the veto was overridden. But there were a lot of environmental groups that were against it because it makes the regulations more lax when it comes to pollution in the rivers and waterways in Kentucky, and also groundwater. And also fisheries, companies that were dealing with fishing were very concerned because of, that affecting lakes and rivers.
I kind of remember that one. There's so many of us, they all start to kind of run in your head. But on that one, it just made where Kentucky's laws didn't supersede federal laws. So it didn't relax any laws. It just said our laws don't supersede federal laws. So, and it changed some too. When it went over to the Senate, and came back to the House, some of the things you were concerned about, those groups got together and it was hashed out, some of those issues you're talking about. But basically, it's just saying that state law doesn't supersede federal law. So all the federal EPA guidelines and waterway guidelines are still in force. And the ones in Kentucky are in force.
We'll see if that happens.
Yeah.
We'll see if that's
Well,
the
I
case.
mean, federal law, we can't undo federal law.
No, of course not.
And I remember another issue with that being the unreasonable enforcement of that. There were contractors that were digging ditches on sites that were falling under those laws and making it very difficult for construction. So I know that played part in it too, that the enforcement had just gotten to where it was completely unreasonable. But like Chris, I remember through the latter part of that bill going through that there were some changes made that addressed some of the issues that were of concern with that bill.
Thank you. Our next question is to Representative Freeland. With Kentucky pursuing to fund more private and charter schools, what are the priorities for improving our schools and ensuring that all students have equal access to quality education regardless of their income status?
Equal access to education? I mean, that's our goal right now here in Kentucky, is that every kid has the same opportunity for a quality education in our public schools. And I think here in Marshall County and all throughout the state, that's certainly our goal that we strive for. In places like Jefferson County, that sometimes is a different story, but here in the rest of the state, especially here in Marshall County, I think you would talk to anybody, and any of the teachers, educators, or any of the staff at any of our schools, and they would tell you that it's a quality education for every student here in the county and probably across the state. So.
And I know this is an issue that there's always a lot of debate on it, and For me, I think it's absolutely the correct step to take is to make that next step. And you look at what's happening in other schools, and we passed a law that also allows for public schools, they can become schools of innovation. And it allows the schools to alter their delivery methods in the way they provide the education. So there's already some latitude that is being given to the school districts. Charter schools will complement what we have, and I have no fear of them whatsoever. And those of you that might have special needs students or know families that have special needs students, a lot of people don't think about the opportunity that charter schools can provide for these students. I got an opportunity just a few weeks ago. We were down visiting my in-laws in Florida, and there's a brand new charter school down there for kids with autism. Beautiful campus, beautiful facility. And we don't have what students with autism need in our state. That's a lot of schools say that they provide services and they train their teachers. It's not to the level that those students need to be successful at all. So we in many ways are failing our students with autism, and charter schools will create opportunities for that. It'll create different environments. Make no mistake about it, we already have charter schools in this state. They may not be called that. There is a school up in Carroll County, I think it is, that they focus on engineering. They work with different corporations. That's what they do. That's a charter school. It's just not called that. But I think the fear of it, people just need to get past that. The funding, they'll be public charter schools. They'll follow, be public school teachers that will be there. And those things cannot happen unless the local school board approves it. So there are checks and balances to make sure that those things just aren't forced. But Chris is right. In some areas of our state, there are schools that fail year after year after year. And those students, those families deserve better opportunities. And the way the system is set up, it's a lottery choice. They don't get to handpick their students. So there are checks and balances on that to make sure that it's equal on who gets in to these facilities. And we need to have expanded opportunities. We had a bill that came through during the session. There is an online school that is in Kentucky that has, I don't know how many students, but it's growing tremendously. And it's operated out of one particular school district. And for some students, that works for them. And there are students that are being very successful with that. We kind of put them on a probationary period to improve some facets of their program, but that's another option that kids will have. If the public school arena is not good for them, doesn't work, they have that opportunity to do online schooling. And we've got to take advantage of all the technology that's available out there, and we've got to cater to what allows our kids to learn. That's not always a public school environment, and families need choices, and that's what we're trying to accomplish, even though that is often twisted around to mean things that it simply doesn't mean. And if you look at some of the other states that are very successful, Florida being a good example of that, it's working and it's increasing scores. It's opportunities for teachers, and teachers seem to be the harshest on this. What great opportunities for teachers if they get burnt out in a public school system and they have the opportunity to go to a charter school and teach different ways, different methods. What a great opportunity to save some teacher careers with that. So hot topic's always going to be, and hopefully we'll start taking steps towards that and seeing charter schools being successful and improving scores throughout our state, and also at that whole time supporting our public schools.
Thank you. How do you pronounce his last name?
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. This question goes out for any county officials. What are we doing to strengthen our small businesses in Marshall County?
We haven't heard from Commissioner Collins yet.
Yeah.
It's been 37 minutes without any comment.
Has
It's a
anyone
new
ever
record.
watched a fiscal court meeting that I haven't spoken in 37 minutes? I mean, what? Give me the question again. I'm just so excited to talk.
Yeah, okay. What are we doing to strengthen our small businesses in Marshall County?
Well, let me say, we have an incredible, our Kentucky Lake Economic Development Board, which Judge Spraggs and I sit on, is fantastic. We have a great economic development director. She is always seeking ways that we can help, not just large corporations that want to come in here, but small businesses as well. So, you know, we sink quite a bit of money annually into that board, but also we have our Southwest One Industrial Development in Benton, and here's what I think, and even from now being an elected official for 7 years, I don't know that we truly, when you're running for office, understand that we're not economic development, we're not economic developers. We are the folks who put the infrastructure in place so that we can attract those to come into our county. So I think what this fiscal court has done, putting money into infrastructure, whether it be water or broadband projects that we all want to see, or infrastructure within our industrial development, that's where we come into play. So, and thank you so much for giving me that microphone. I feel so much better.
Hang on to it. You might get another question.
Thank you. Okay, the next one is for Mr. Rogolinski. With so much focus on Benton and Calvert, what are you doing to bring growth and focus to Hardin?
What we're doing right now in the city, we have started cleaning up the city. We started garbage pickup there. We have, in the past year, we removed one drug house and actually had it demolished and torn down. We've had several homes that were non-livable homes, so we've had those taken and torn down by the owners. It's like with the county, we have a system that we use. We send out a letter to these people, a certified letter, letting them know that there's a complaint on their property. Once they get the letter, they have, according to our, yep, that's what they're called. Ordinances, there you go. According to our ordinances, they have 30 days. If they don't make any improvements, we give them another 30 days. And after that, if they don't, we charge them $75 a day for a fee, $75 a day. After that fee gets up so high, then we put a lien against the property. And as Judge Bragg said, you know, after that it becomes into foreclosure. But with that, we've started a remote control drag race thing out there to bring people into Hardin, to bring some of the residents out. We also just got a grant to build a stage out there. And we also have a farmer's market that we started this year. That's in place now. I've also got another grant that we are working on trying to put a pickleball court in over there to make the residents of Hardin more active in the city. If I can get just one of them to help out and make a move, maybe some people will follow. But we're doing all we can to bring the community together and to clean it up. Oh, yes, let me have that back. Thank you, Matt. We also have a contract with the Marshall County Sheriff's Department that they come out and they patrol the city. They still come out during the day and patrol when they can, but we actually contract with them overtime, that we have more police presence out there, hopefully to stop a lot of the drug action and speeding and all that kind of stuff. So I can't praise the sheriff's department enough. I mean, they've done everything they can to help us out, to be out there in the city of Hardin to stop some of the crime that's going to be there. But again, you're always going to have that one person that's going to push that button. But I really appreciate the sheriff's department for doing what they're doing for us.
Thank you. This question is for Mr. Darnell or Sheriff Hilbrecht. Does the Marshall County Jail have sufficient beds to accommodate all inmates, or is there overcrowding?
I think Sheriff wouldn't have a better idea of that than me.
If I can be completely honest, once we get past the booking area, I don't know, but I do believe they do. I haven't heard anything from Roger about overcrowding being an issue. Certainly, I'm unaware of us contracting with any other counties to do any housing, so I believe we are more staff than probably
Yeah,
a
I
lot
can
of counties.
comment on that after we've been working on budget for last month and a half. And they're way under on their numbers. The state inmate population is down considerably. That's due to various reasons throughout the state, but our jail budget just keeps getting worse and worse. Danny and Chris, they hear that all the time. Jail funding is a very serious issue for counties, but basically right now the state inmate population is down. We are just on state inmate population to date this fiscal year. It's down, it's in the red about $250,000 from what was budgeted. That's just that one line. Luckily, we've been housing Graves County inmates at a state rate, and that has helped offset that. But Graves County, it looks like they're not going to be rebuilding a jail, and they put their inmates out for bid. So we may or may not have any of those going forward, but there definitely is not an overcrowding situation right now.
With the damage to the jail over in Mayfield, there's also been some talk, rather than just building that jail back, of building a regional facility. And I don't, Judge, I don't know how much conversation you all have had about that, but that has come up in Frankfurt a few times about just building one large facility and the surrounding counties going in together. And I don't know if that would work for Marshall County, but I know that's been part of the discussion to solve Graves County's problem and to have a positive impact on the entire region with that type of jail.
Did go to a meeting on that, and I'm a numbers person, so that was my big question, as well as Judge Imes, who I was seated beside. Roughly, if we combined a regional jail with Callaway, Marshall, and Graves, we were looking at roughly 35 to 40 million each, I believe was the number. And my thoughts on that right now is our jail is paid for. So that taking on that new debt service,
It's budget year.
Yeah,
Dan,
yeah.
so
Yeah, so taking on that new debt service for that kind of debt when we have a jail that's paid for didn't make much sense. And, you're still seeing the declining state inmate population, which I would like to think crime is down, but I don't think that's the reason, so.
The advantage to that would be that there would be more funding available. If you combine various counties, it frees up additional funding.
Thank you. The next question is for Mr. Kevin Farley. Several buildings around the town square are empty. What is being done to fill these buildings with offices and small local mom and pop businesses?
I may have mentioned this last year because we were working with the same company. We worked with a company called Retail Strategies, and they work with cities of all sizes, a lot of small to medium-sized cities, to give us walk around, look at our square, look at our town, and give us suggestions on things that we could do to make our downtown and our city better, bring in new businesses and all. We have had some new businesses come in the last year. We've got some plans on a couple of others that I think there's going to be, I don't know if the buildings have been purchased or leased yet, but I think we've got a couple more coming down the road. The city is looking at an option on a property, and we've got some plans around that. There will be some exciting news. I can't really go into it because we're still kind of in the middle of that. But we worked a lot with retail strategies. We've seen improvement. Are we where we want to be? No, we're not yet. We are developing the First Responders Plaza, which is right there on the corner of, what is that, 12th and Main Street. And we're in the bidding process now for demolition of what's there, and we're going to make that a plaza to honor all first responders. We're going to have a stage down there. There was a rendering on our Facebook page, and on both the city's Facebook page and the city council's Facebook page. We're going to make a larger stage where we can have outdoor concerts and have gatherings there. So we are taking steps. We're not where we want to be yet, but we're in a better place. This is my 7th year on the council now, and I can say we've made some pretty good strides. We still got some work to do, but I see some encouraging things coming down the road.
Thank you. This question is for Mr. Dustin Brown, Senator Carroll, or Representative Freeland. Has there been any study of the impact of a casino in the area by reviewing other communities who have allowed casinos?
There's not been any study that I know of for Calvert City. The state law, every casino or gaming facility, however you want to call it, HHR facility, every one that there is where there's a track, I think it's a 60-mile radius, is where they can have another one. Each one can have one. Is that right, Jason? Each one can have one. So Marshall fit in that 60-mile radius. So they would be the ones doing any kind of study. So I haven't seen it. I don't know if Danny has or Dustin has, but I'm not aware of it.
I've not seen a study done. I know there's been studies done on traffic and how to fix that interchange in front of the sports gaming facility. And so there has been traffic studies done. I don't know about economically. We are excited about the potential. We know there's a lot of investment potential beginning to happen that we may see in the near future, and as a result of the Marshall Yards gaming facility. So we are already seeing some results from it, even though it's not built yet or fully built. It's about halfway. They're moving on pretty quick. They get after it.
I don't think there's any question that's going to have a positive impact on the economy in Calvert City. And we're also we had a meeting the other day. They're wanting to expand Route 66, which would it's an east-west corridor that would come through down I-69 through I-20 then I-24 over in Paducah up into Illinois and then go west. So if that happens, that's going to create more traffic that will come through there and contribute even more to that. I think it's great what it's going to do for the economy, and I think there will be benefits of it. I'm not a fan of it, and I'm not supportive of them doing it. And I told the mayor that I hate it. I'm not a fan of expanded gaming. I don't want that to be what Kentucky is. I would rather we improve our economy in other ways. This is gambling. Make no mistake about it. It's labeled as historic horse racing. It's gambling. It's nothing but a way around saying that we've legalized gambling in Kentucky. We just don't call it gambling. And I'm not excited about that being in Marshall County and Calvert City. But, I mean, I am excited, the potential. I don't know that the facility itself is going to create a lot of good paying jobs or a lot of revenue in the county or in the city, for that matter. But I think it's going to be a base that's going to create expansion all along that corridor from Calvert City over to the dam. And I think you're going to see a lot of businesses come in as a result of that. So it's going to have a positive impact. I just wish we found a different way to do that.
Thank you. The next question is for Mr. Monty Collins. Are there any plans to put animal containment laws in for District 3?
Is this the 45-minute break? Did we? No? Are there any laws pertaining to animal containment?
Are there
any
plans to put into place laws for animal containment?
You know, we have discussed if we're talking about like the only thing that I can think of that would come up for discussion on the county level would be a county leash law. And we have not taken it to the level of having a vote when it comes to that. But I would say it would not. That is not something that would be easily passed in this county. You know, within the cities having a leash law. And they're much smaller than the county level. It's easier to have that. But if you ask these folks that are from Calvert and Benton, they may have them, but are they really enforced? I'm not 100% sure about that. So we do not have something currently that we're looking at voting on. As it pertains to a leash law.
I can add, there's not a leash law in Calvert, and leash laws largely are ineffective. A lot of dog bites are on the owner's property. You know, someone walks through the yard, and most leash laws doesn't mean your dog has to be leashed on your property in most cases. So, you know, if you're at a park, the dog would have to be on the leash, and I believe that may be a state law already, that if you're out like at a park, the dog has to be on the leash. But as far as the city leash law, Calvert does not have one. I don't think that.
We do have a leash law in Benton. It's not something, you know, that our officers or anyone else drive around patrolling looking for cases where that's being violated. But if people come into stores, the stores are familiar with it. If there are children in the store, they do try to remind patrons that are customers that they do need to have the dog on the leash. And then we work a lot off of complaints. If there's a problem dog that I guess harassing people or trying to bite people on the sidewalks walking around town, then we're forced to address it. But we try to let people govern themselves. But we do have the leash law in effect in case there are situations, because we don't want our job is to make Benton a better place to live and a safer place to live. And if we do have animals that aren't staying within on their property, or running loose in a store, and they do injure someone, that's the last thing in the world we want to happen. So when forced to, or when we get complaints, we do have to address it.
The city of Hardin, we do have a leash law, hard to enforce, but there is a leash law there. So we do what we can do, but we can only handle that if there's a complaint from the public. There's nothing else the city can do.
Thank you. This question is for any county officials. If a young person wanted to have more impact in their local community, what is a good place to start?
I'm taking it. If you want to have an impact, in my opinion, you need to get involved on one of the many, many boards that we have in this county. I know Judge Spraggs has been really good about, we have several boards that we nominate folks for or place them on, and he's been very proactive at getting that out there to allow for more people to have the opportunity, so that it's not just people that we know personally that we're putting putting on these boards. So always check his Facebook or the fiscal court Facebook page. He's all the time. We probably had 12 board appointments today. And I bet 9 of those were reappointments, which is having to stay on that board probably because we didn't have anyone else. In some of those cases, they felt like we've got to stay on that board because they didn't have anybody to replace me with. We need folks, I guess, churning through those boards that get involved to even see if you want to be more involved and actually run for office. There's several boards that you could be on that you would be able to tell within the first few meetings whether you want to have a career in politics or not. I can assure you, a couple of those meetings would make you think, oh, this is not going to be that big of a deal until you go out into my wife would tell you as an elected official, until you're out eating dinner and someone calls you a name that you are not that appreciative of in front of your children. Those boards are imperative. I think the Rotary, the Kiwanis Club, the Lions Club, I see those. We had the veteran support group with us today, and they were talking about that their guys are all aging and don't have enough of the younger generation getting involved, and that's what concerns me with a lot of these groups is, are we gonna have that next generation in Marshall County to step up? And with social media the way it is, it's difficult. I mean, it's difficult for you to put yourself out there even on one of those boards and be concerned that someone's going to be upset with you and blast you in front of your entire family. So, but it's in the end, after I've said that, it's worth it. I promise you, it's worth it. I don't have a picture of me from 7 years ago, but I bet it would look like one of those where, not necessarily where you gray, but around here. I'm fairly certain I look different than I do then, but it's very, very rewarding.
Could I add something to that? I didn't realize we'd both been in our position 7 years, Monty, but you could get involved. One way, a great way to get involved is going to either a city council meeting or to the circuit court meeting. Because if you go to those meetings, you hear what business is being discussed. When I first ran for city council, it was because I had a particular interest. I wanted to see an ordinance passed in Benton. So I did some research, brought the information to the Benton City Council. They passed it, and in doing that and getting that involved in it, I decided the next time around I was going to run. I ran, got elected, and got involved. There are all kinds of opportunities. If you come to some of these meetings, there's all kinds of opportunities to, to either get involved or do something to help out the city or the county. I'll give a shout out to a young person that's done a great deal of work for the city of Benton and for the county too, Drew Williams, a young man that you typically don't see somebody step up, but Tater Day was really kind of heading the wrong direction. And he's a young man and decided he wanted to get involved and wanted to keep that tradition going. And he has put in countless hours, at his own expense to make this, try to turn it around and start making Tater Day a better event with a longstanding history. And so there are ways to get involved. The first step I'd say would be start attending some of the meetings to see what is being discussed.
Thank you. That we will be now switching our moderators.
Do you need a recess? They're always the recess guy.
Okay, hello. We are your second set of moderators. My name is Lily Wathen, and this is Eli Holiday, and this will begin our second half of our town hall meeting.
We do want to remind everybody in our audience that if we have questions or we have our question cards written out, to just hold them up, and we will have somebody come around and collect those and hand you a new one. These been asked. Okay. Our first question is for Senator Danny Carroll. What is the status of Senate Bill 257 that proposed to establish a Kentucky Department of Efficiency? If passed, will it mirror DOGE at the federal government level?
Yeah, my memory was that it didn't pass, and Chris confirmed that. And if we do get to that, it's mirrored off of what they're doing in the federal government. And really, I don't know that it's anything new other than expanding the auditor's office, and they do a lot of that anyways. And they would welcome the increase in personnel because it would increase their ability to do audits. I have requested an audit of the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation. Again, those of you all who have disabled folks in your family or know disabled folks, OVR is the organization they go through to get help to get employment. And right now in our state has stopped serving all levels of disability. Any new people coming in, they can't get services today. And I have some concerns about that. I have some concerns that the $75 million in federal dollars that they got this year, it's either 75 or 175. I don't remember exactly right now, but they're out of money, and they don't have the money to do any other services. And I've asked the auditor's office to do that. I asked several months ago, and they haven't had the opportunity to get to that. But with that legislation, that's what they would do. They would go in and do what the auditor's office does and do a complete accounting of all their finances. And I think it would be maybe to an increased level should this legislation pass in the future. But I don't think it's really nothing new, and we could have granted extra funding to the auditor's office and probably accomplished the same thing. And it's one of those things where this session we spent a lot of time trying to duplicate what the Trump administration is doing in a lot of different ways. And sometimes I wish we would focus more on what we need to do in our state. And some of these issues, the federal government's going to take care of some of the issues, and we really don't need to be spending our time on those things. And we need to focus on what's important in our state and some of the controversial issues that we've got to do what Trump's administration's doing. And don't get me wrong, I'm a Republican and I'm very conservative, but I just think there are greater demands that we have in our greater needs in our state right now than duplicating what the Trump administration's doing in D.C.
All right. So this is for any county or city official, specifically Mr. Roglinski. We can't forget the empty senior citizens building. What is the status of that building?
We had applied for a grant in the last, I guess it was last year, and my expectations on getting the grant was very high. I think that would have been successful, but in the process of applying for a grant, you have to get with a architect engineering firm and get price estimate on doing the project at hand. And the grant was for $750,000, which I felt like would pretty well do the renovation on the center, and the cost estimate come in at $2.3 million. So that's where that one is. We are in the process of, there's another grant cycle coming up. That grant's bumped up to $850,000. There's another 15% grant match we can get. bringing that total to $1 million. So we are also going to be reaching out and trying to get some funding put in the state budget. Trying to get more of a realistic figure on the center. I think that that estimate was way out of whack, to say the least. The one came in on Needline, I think that come in initially at 1.2, 1.3 million. The bid came in on that around 760, I think. So the seniors have been meeting every week. They're meeting at the Joe Creason Center. We're making sure they have a place to meet. They're enjoying their bingo and their donuts and a few other activities, but I am 100% working aggressively on that. I want to see that center reopened. It just needs a lot of work. Roof, HVAC, I mean, I could go on and on about that, but it is in still good enough condition to rehabilitate. So hopefully through those two avenues, we can get that done.
Now, I'll add to that. The judge and I had a conversation a few months ago about that, and I know the interest in Marshall County to get that done and for some of our older folks to participate. And Chris and I are committed this next session to make that a priority in some of the funding requests. We've been very fortunate over recent years that we've had a budget surplus, and I think I don't know, $5 billion maybe in our budget reserve trust fund right now, and it's because that our economy's been doing so well. And there's a lot of different things that are responsible for that, but the fact is we've had the ability to put requests for funding in that we haven't been able to do in years past. And most everything that I requested last session we were able to get, and it covers all 5 counties in my district, and I was able to get something in each county. And I know Chris and other colleagues within this region had that same luck. So we're hopeful that the revenue is still good that's coming in on a monthly basis. Our income tax rate is going to drop to 3.5%. I think it is, and if you all remember, the overall goal is to do away with income tax in Kentucky, and we have metrics put in to ensure that the revenue coming into the state is balanced. And if we don't meet certain metrics, then that rate does not drop for that time period. So we've been very careful about that. But with the extra funding requests, and I know that there have been projects like that have been funding, not for the operations, but for a capital project. I think we could have some luck doing that, and if we're working together to get that done, I think we should be able to get a good amount of funding for that. But the judge is right. We've got to know what it's going to cost first, and the judge is being very fiscally responsible in making sure that he's comfortable with the estimates that he gets. And from running a nonprofit and doing several construction projects in the last year, anytime you count on what something's going to cost, you can multiply that by about 3 or 4, and then you'll be close to the number. So you really have to be careful, and there can be a lot of, you can get a lot of different estimates for the same services, and you've got to use due diligence, and I commend the judge and the fiscal court for doing that. But I think we're getting to the point where they're going to have that pinned down, and then Chris and I can work to get those dollars appropriated in the next budget. And we're going to move that up on the list because I believe that it is badly needed in this county. And I was at that fiscal court meeting when everybody showed up, and the folks are there to support that, not a doubt in my mind, and we've got to make that happen.
I want to back up just a little bit and thank Danny and Chris. They were able to get $1.7 million put in our state budget. We had it, when I say failing waste treatment plant in Aurora, that's an understatement. I'm surprised it's still running. But they were able to get $1.7 million put in the state budget for Marsh County for that, and I'm so thankful. That was creating some sleepless nights. That frees up that money for us to use elsewhere. So thank you all again so much.
Thank you. Our next question is for any of our county officials, but specifically Mr. Barrett. There has been talk for adding a traffic circle to Highway 68. Will we ever see this happen? If not here, would one be beneficial on 641 by the bus garage?
That is a troubled area right there. Yes, we are gonna have them in Draffenville. We're gonna have 4 roundabouts. It's in the next 2 years, I say, something like that. But yeah, that is a troubled area right there too. Something needs to be addressed. There's a lot of traffic right there.
This is also, sorry.
I met with the state a couple weeks ago, and that's one of the many things we discussed. I don't know, maybe a year ago, whenever that was, they come out with that proposal and meeting and all that. I discussed with them the need for a turn lane going to Central Elementary. Traffic back up there is horrible, and they've got it routed through a subdivision. And anyway, in this most recent meeting, they are adding a turn lane in there, so I'm very happy to get that put in. And initially, they were going to put a wall, a barrier down through Draffenville to prohibit any turning across, but they've removed that out of there. Also, personally, some people may not like that, but personally, I'm happy about that. I was afraid people, if they had to turn around and go through all that, they may just keep going and not stop and do business where they had initially intended on. There will be one at the Y, and there will be one at CFSB First Kentucky, and then there's one at each ramp getting off. The one at the CFSB First Kentucky location is super roundabout or something like that. It's supposed to be bigger to accommodate semi-traffic and all that, so we'll see.
Thank you so much. This is also for any all county officials. What's the justification for allowing CBD distribution in Marshall County under the guise of medical use? Is it not expected that the THC use and the consequences will follow?
I think it's been deemed medical. I think there's kind of a stigma there with it. I think if it's used properly, I don't see any more problem with that than any other prescription drug that's used. I know, I have a family member with PTSD. My father has Parkinson's. I've got friends with other medical issues that can be used to treat, and I think there's a lot of benefits that can come along with it.
I'm going to add
go ahead.
add a little bit to that. With marijuana, and I didn't support that. The ultimate goal is to pass it for recreational use, and I'm not going to support that at all. One thing you do need to be aware of is in Kentucky, we have drinks that are being sold in cans that look like energy drinks. They have THC in it. They were able to do that through, I think it was a federal farm bill that passed, and somehow or another that was put in there, and that is legal in Kentucky, and those are being sold throughout the Commonwealth. And it is at a level to where it would be intoxicating, and the only thing we could do is regulate it. We couldn't stop it, we could regulate it, but that's an issue that a lot of parents and a lot of families are not aware of in this state, but it's something worth looking into. And the medical use with the dispensaries, there's going to be abuse to that, and there's going to be problems created by that, no doubt about it. But are there legitimate uses? And there, yes, there are. But we just know from experiences in other states that there will be abuses. And then the marijuana lobby now, the big push is for recreational use. And of all the issues in the 10 years that I've been in Frankfort, the one issue that I'm sure is at top 5, if not the top, when you count all 10 years, that I get the most messages from about, it's marijuana. That's sad. That's sad. But that's where all that comes from, and the ultimate goal is to get it legalized in our state. And there are a lot of problems that come with that, and you look at states that have done that, many of them regret doing that, and there's always this, well, it's going to generate a lot of money, and there are a lot of problems that go with the money that it generates, but just be aware of the drink. I was shocked when I learned about that. I didn't have a clue. I'm like, no, you got to be kidding. No, they weren't kidding. It's there, and it's on our shelves today.
I'll just add a little. I was not aware of these hemp infused beverages, and they're kind of slang term called weed water. So if you see that, but I know it's a silly name, but anyway, they come in like 5 milligrams, 10, 20, and even 100 milligrams of THC, and you can get these things almost anywhere. So really be careful when you see these. So look for these if you're. I don't say your kids are buying them, but I do think you have to be 21 maybe to buy these. So yeah, that is part of the new regulation. But in Kentucky, starting whenever this regulation does pass, the most you can buy is the 5 milligrams. So at least that will be the new law. So, but anyway, but yeah, we didn't even know this existed.
I just, one thing, now that you all have made it about weed, it's going to be hard for me to get this back to what the actual question was. But anyway, so that you know, there were only going to be 3 medical marijuana dispensaries in the entire region, which encompasses all of the counties in what we think of as the purchase region, and even a few more counties on into what I would call the penny row region. And that it wasn't it was a state law that passed, and the vote that would come down to you is whether or not you are not going to allow one of those dispensaries to be in your county. And so that would have been the vote that we took. If you didn't do anything, it would be allowed. But there are literally 3 of those dispensaries in a 14 to 15 county region. We were not. No one that went for that in Marshall County was chosen in the lottery, so that I'm aware of. I'm not even sure that there will be one in Marshall County, but just so you know. But obviously y'all got it off the rails down there.
Thank you. Our next question is for any of our county or city officials that would like to answer. Do you see a joint county and city government in the future? What would be the pros and cons to a joint government?
No. I mean, there are 2 in the entire Commonwealth, and that's Lexington and Louisville that make sense. But I no, can't see it. Am I wrong? Is there anyone that says yes to that?
No, I agree 100%.
I don't think it would ever be feasible here. When you think about Jefferson County, Louisville, and Lexington, Fayette County, you know, the city and the county, you know, demographic-wise and business-wise, it's one and the same. I mean, you can't really, especially Lexington and Fayette County. I mean, you know when you're in Fayette County, and you know when you cross that line, you're in Fayette County, no matter which direction you are. So, but in a county like smaller counties like Marshall County, where you've got, you know, 3 municipalities, the rest of it's rural, that's very difficult. Would be very difficult to do. I think didn't Warren County discuss that at one point with Bowling Green, and Paducah? Paducah talked about it, but at the end of the day, I just don't think it's feasible unless it's a really large metropolitan area.
All right. This is for Representative Freeland and Senator Carroll. How has President Trump's tariffs and subsequent rollback of said tariffs affected the bourbon industry in Kentucky, and what are Kentucky legislators doing to help?
As far as the tariffs, most of those, of course, we're in session until the mid-March, so we haven't heard of any impact as far as the bourbon industry. I'm sure if you ask them, maybe there is. I haven't heard of any, so I think they're doing pretty good. So, Danny, have you heard of anything?
I really haven't, and, you know, there's such a domestic market for that, and I don't know what percentage is shipped overseas, but I don't, you know, and this gets into a much bigger issue, and you know, I'm not always a Trump fan, but when it comes to negotiations, the man knows what he's doing, and there is an end game that he has in mind, and we're already starting to see signs that he's getting there. So I think, you know, we focus so much on what struggles we're going to have. Sometimes you got to struggle to get to the promised land, and you know, I think our country is going to be stronger because we're drawing some lines in the sand, and I think that needs to be done on at times, and I think he's done that. And the tariffs it's going to hurt for a while, but you know, you got to keep in mind, whatever it hurts us, it's probably going to hurt the other countries twice as bad. And gives them incentive to come to the table to negotiate. And in Kentucky, bourbon is, you know, that's the big industry in coal. We export a lot of coal, especially to China, believe it or not. So it could have an impact, but it's impacting in a lot of different areas. We're all paying higher prices for things because of that, but the hope is it'll be short-lived, and our bourbon industry is going to be fine. We are the world standard in bourbon, and not that I'm a fan of bourbon. I hate bourbon. It tastes awful, but it's pretty neat to have in our Commonwealth, and you know, I don't think long-term it's going to have any impact.
Thank you. Our next question is for any of our county officials. Can a light be installed at 641 and Scale Road? There are many accidents happening there.
Those are state roads. Yeah, they're both state roads.
All right, thank you. So this is for Mr. Roglinski and Mr. Darnell and Mr. Farley. What is the single most challenging issues citizens should be aware of in the community, and what is being done to address it?
One of the biggest things in the city of Hardin is the infrastructure. The roads in the city of Hardin are so narrow, and right now we're looking at a grant to replace one of our bridges. It's all in motion now. We're just waiting to find out if we get approved or not. We just finished up a grant for our infrastructure for our sewer plant, and hopefully we can get another grant to finish that up. But the biggest problem we have in the city is just our infrastructure. It's so old, just trying to replace it is the biggest thing that happens in the city of Hardin as far as the infrastructure goes.
I know in Benton, someone had a question earlier about around the Court Square and businesses. That is a big challenge for us. We've been working on that for at least 3 years. We're seeing improvements in that. Again, we're still not where we want to be. Another has been mentioned by our county representatives is Southwest One. That has been annexed into the city, and you know, we're looking at adding a new water tower that would supply, you know, any needs that the industry may have coming in if a plant were to come in. That's not cheap. That's over $4 million. And it's a big challenge for a city of about 4,800 people to bring in, you know, come up with that kind of money to put in a new water tower. But it's going to be necessary. We're going to have to do it. We just got to be creative in doing that. But we need to get some tenants in Southwest One, generate some tax revenue. We're cash strapped like most small cities, and there's just the steps to get there and to provide everything that industrial park needs are big steps. But we're working on it, and it's just it's not something that can happen overnight.
Thank you.
If I may, sir, real quick, that might have sounded like I was dodging that last question. They are state roads, but it is in our county, and there might be a need to do a study there and just see I mean, it can be a busy intersection in parts of the day. I don't know, earlier there was a question about it becoming a roundabout. So that might be something that Garner's looking into more and see if that's something that we might need to do.
In the state Department of Transportation, they keep records on that with the number of accidents and that's one of the primary factors they consider when they look at red lights or whatever it might be as far as traffic control. So that can always be requested. Can't guarantee it would happen, but they would at least look at the number of accidents and see if it meets that metrics to where it would be beneficial to put some type of traffic control in.
Thank you. Our next question is for Mr. Brown. Calvert City has worked very hard to improve the lives of its citizens, bike paths, trails, Food Truck Friday, and festivals. It seems like Calvert always has something going on that's fun. Do you have any advice for the city of Benton?
That's kind of a dirty question.
Yeah. Let's see who gets off the rails now.
I think Benton does a great job. Benton has a lot of really good events also, and I come to Benton for a lot of their events, so I think they do a great job there. Both cities do, really.
May I speak to that briefly? I've had that question. I've been here probably 5 times. I've had that question at least 3 times. But if you drive past the downtown area, you see the big chemical industrial complex they have down there. And then you drive by Southwest 1 and you see the one building sitting out there. That's a big part of the difference. And it takes money to do a lot of these things. And that's why we're working so hard. And Kevin and the commissioners are working so hard to try to fill that industrial park because that brings in tax dollars and that brings in jobs and families and more homes. So that's why we're working feverishly to try to develop that to be able to do some more things. Because again, we compare Calvert City tax dollars to Benton's tax dollars, you're talking apples and oranges, quite honestly.
Thank you. Mr. Farley, when traveling from the high school into Benton, there are some very unattractive areas with litter and rundown buildings. What are the plans to make this entrance into Benton more appealing to draw people in?
In the last year to year and a half, we have added added teeth to a lot of our ordinances with properties that are nuisance properties. And that used to not be the case. It used to be a small fine. And we have, again, like someone else mentioned, we have actually foreclosed on some buildings, torn them down. In North Benton, there's been some changes in a couple of businesses. I'm not saying there's not some other things we could improve, but if we have nuisance properties, and then we are addressing them. We're making the fines enough that where it gets the property owner's attention. And if anybody wants to talk to me after the meeting, if they have a particular property in mind that they're talking about, please catch me and let me know, and I'll make sure, or come to a city council meeting and let us know, because a lot of times that's where it starts.
Thank you. Our next question is for Senator Carroll. Last year at the town hall, you stated your concern about deepening factions within the Republican Party, even in Kentucky. There seems to be a declining centrist component to the party if all these factions cannot be mutually supported. How can all these differing views be reconciled if made more palatable to the majority of Kentuckians and the American public?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the last question.
It is noticeable, and it's not just I think the Democratic Party when they had the presidential office and they were in charge, you started to see a far left faction gain control, gain power, and you started to see a lot of middle of the road Democrats leave the party. And that faction is still very much there, and there is a lot of dissension, and the Democratic Party is, those of you that are Democrats, I apologize, is falling apart. It's not the Democratic Party that most of you all have been part of for your entire lives. It's changed a lot. A lot of the same things are happening on the right in the Republican Party. And within our caucus, there are factions, and there are those that are really far right, and they want to push back the far left with equal or more force. And that's what I said about, we spend a lot of time doing that. And we did this session with a lot of bills, a lot of the social issues, and and it's not that I don't disagree with it, but a lot of those things are being addressed at the federal level, and it's not necessary for us to duplicate what the feds are doing. But within the faction, at some point, my hope is that things are going to level out in this country. We're not going to have an Obama. We're not going to have a Biden. We're not going to have a Trump. We're going to have a president who is a leader that can pull this country together, and that's what we need. And I don't, John F. Kennedy, Reagan, on either side, those are the two that come to mind, and that's what this country needs. And we've got to find the middle again, because I would venture to say that the vast majority of Americans, Democrat or Republican, you're going to fall in the middle somewhere. We've lost our voice because the extreme left, the extreme right has become so loud, they drown us out. We don't speak up. And so I think that's what we've got to get to. And I think for there to be any significant changes, it's going to have to start in the president's office. And my hope is someday that happens and we get past all of this pushing back and forth to extremes, and we focus on what's important to this country. And people just need to stay in their lanes and live their lives in a lot of ways, and stop trying to force your lifestyle on others, and be who you are. And we have, when it comes to religion, you have your God, and that's okay, and we need to respect that, and we need to be respectful in the way we approach our beliefs with others, and instead of trying to shove it down each other's throats. And that's what we've done for years, and that's what's caused the dissension. And even within the party, I think our reaction to that as Republicans, there are those like me that are more in the middle, and there are those at the far right that I struggle getting along with them, and I struggle to accept their extremes. And there are some Democrats that are more middle of the road that I'm more comfortable talking to than I am some within our very own caucus. Not that they're bad people. I love them. I love working with them. I love being around them. My beliefs just don't go that far. And quite frankly, I'm tired of spending time on all this stuff, and I want to spend time on you all and your quality of lives, in the education for our kids and our kids' future. And that's where we need to be focused. And so for what it's worth, that's kind of where I feel like we are right now. And hopefully it's a cycle. We've seen these cycles in history before, and hopefully it'll pass, and hopefully, sometime soon we'll get a president that's not calling names and not pushing radical agendas, but catering to the majority of this country, who are those that are somewhere in the middle.
Thank you. This next question is for Senator Carroll and Representative Freeland. How do you propose to make up the shortfall that is going to happen with the disbanding of the Department of Education and other departments that support our schools/children? Examples: free and reduced lunch programs, cuts, etc.
I haven't heard of any I know there's been a proposal, possibly, I know of disbanding of the Federal Department of Education, and if they did that, the idea was to give that money to the state through the Kentucky Department of Education, and that would be okay, because I know it's a little bit redundant to have a Federal Department of Education and a Kentucky Department of Education. So as long as the money goes to the kids and to the school systems, and it does the job that it's supposed to, we'll do what we do here in Kentucky. We wouldn't have any say over what the federal government does on their decisions, so we'll do the best that we can. But I think as long as we keep the programs going that benefit you guys, I think we'll be okay. So I don't know exactly where that stands as far as I don't know if that's going to happen or not, so I couldn't tell you.
I think there's just going to be a lot of new ways that we do things, and the opposition is obviously going to attack, and the sky is falling, and that's just politics, and that's just the way it works. But looking at education, there's no reason why we can't accomplish the goals that we have our state doing it ourselves. And if there's a savings to be had by that, then I think that's a good thing. And we just step up our efforts in that area. There's other concerns. Medicaid has been a big concern on what those cuts might look like. So there's still a lot to be decided on that. And I think that's another thing, that the money will probably be distributed differently. And will some things be tightened up, more of the expanded Medicaid population? Yeah, and then I think there's going to be more of a focus on, getting those that are not working, which the numbers may not be as great as sometimes they're portrayed to be, that are on Medicaid to get them working. And we need, as far as Medicaid goes, we've got to find a way with benefits that there's not the cliff that you have. I run a nonprofit, and what we pay, we're just to the point that I have staff members that they don't want to accept any raises because it knocks them out of Medicaid. And so I think there are ways that we can be more efficient in transition. There are jobs coming into this state left and right. In Paducah, at the DOE site, in the next few years, we've probably got 500-600 jobs coming in that are nuclear energy related, and I hope we get into nuclear energy because there are some things I would love to say about that. But there are a lot of jobs coming to this area, and there are jobs in this state, and we need to get our people to work, and we need to save the Medicaid dollars for those who really need it, and those with disabilities, those that are unable to work, and we've got to take better care of them, because right now that's not happening. The people that really need the benefit of Medicaid, they're not getting it. So I just think everybody needs to have an open mind, or to ask everybody to have an open mind, and it's just going to be a different way of looking at the world while the administration is trying to find efficiencies, because there's been a lot of waste, and they're uncovering a lot of waste. I think in the end, it's all going to balance out, and I think our country will be stronger for that. And again, not a huge Trump fan, but there are things that are going on that I think we have to go through, and we have to rebalance where we are and how we spend our money, and what the important things are to make sure that we're balancing, we're being fiscally responsible, and we're providing services where they're needed, and doing what the public expects the government to do.
Thank you. This next question is for Sheriff Hilbrick. Has the county financially benefited from alcohol sales, and have you seen an increase in DUIs?
Well, we kind of touched on this earlier. With regards to fatalities and injury accidents, no, that's declined. DUIs, like County Attorney had said, is definitely up. A lot of that has to do with the pill epidemic that we have. A lot of people taking prescription medication, also getting DUIs for that reason. What was the other part of that question?
Has the county financially benefited from alcohol sales?
Benefit. Certainly. There's, the tax revenue that comes off the ABC, the sales of alcohol. It funds 4 positions for deputies. That's built into our budget every year. So yes, we have 4 deputies whose salaries are paid for through the tax that comes from the alcohol sales. So yes, there's a benefit to us. Certainly. Are there other crimes that go along with that, and it causes the need for it? Absolutely.
It's $430,000 of a $27 million budget. So I would say, does the county benefit from it? No, not substantially anyway. I mean, obviously they do, but it is only used for the sheriff's department.
Right, correct.
So it doesn't go into the general fund, the coffers, whatever. So.
It's only about 8% of the sheriff's office budget.
Thank you.
But it's important to those 4 guys. Let me,
And that is, the reason that it's earmarked for state law for that purpose. So it's not a choice that the fiscal court has on how to spend that income. It's not a tax. What's it called? Regulatory license fee is what it's called. And those funds are earmarked for law enforcement related purposes. So the court has no discretion on how to spend that.
Thank you.
could I say, first off, my wife has given me the look. I have a nephew who has a graduation party tonight, and she's given me the glare multiple times now. So I'm going to excuse myself before she beats me when we leave here. But I want to say thank you guys for hosting this and putting it on and inviting me to come. I do appreciate it, and I'm going to take off if that's okay.
Thank you. We've appreciated
Thank
having
you.
you, Sheriff Hobart.
I'll leave this in Jason's capable hands.
All right. This next question is for Mr. Darnell. What is something you could do or would like to do in regard to working with our schools to identify, help, and steer kids who are on a potential path to future incarceration?
Maybe this is the last question. Well, I mean, certainly there are warning signs at early ages, but the more that I've been in this position, the more that I have seen the benefit of specialty courts. We touched about that on a little bit about the mental health court. So if we could have a mental health court for juveniles, I think that would be very beneficial. We're starting to see the mental health court. We've got drug courts. We're starting to see some veteran courts across the state. And what that does is it allows the judge, the prosecutor, any defense attorney that may be involved, is to provide more individualized services to that person that might not otherwise be available in regular court. So a mental health court for juveniles, I think, would be a fantastic thing. Obviously, the earlier that you can get to somebody to get them straightened out medicine-wise or behavior-wise, the less likely that person is to end up in the adult court system. So that's one idea that I would like to see.
Thank you. This next question is for Representative Freeland or Senator Carroll. Is there a current bill addressing school vouchers? Would you support such a bill or not support it in view of the fact that Amendment 2 failed in Kentucky?
Well, since Amendment 2 failed, I think it's pretty obvious we won't be bringing that back up. I don't think, Danny might think differently. I don't know if we'll see another amendment brought back up. I think we've done pretty poorly on amendments. So we might just take a break on trying to pass constitutional amendments for a while. But no, I don't see any efforts to pass any type of vouchers or any type of funding for private schools or anything of that nature. We did try to pass this last session on one of the last days of session. Now, this wasn't funding schools. This was protecting kids. It was using the budget reserve money. It was $5 million out of the budget reserve. And this would have been for private schools, but it would have been money that went directly to the law enforcement, to the sheriff's office, to the police. And this would have been for a private school, charter school, but it would have allowed them to use that money for SROs for a private school. But again, it wouldn't have gone to that school. It would have gone to the sheriff's department, and it would have allowed them to use that money at a private school, but it was vetoed by the governor. And we weren't allowed, it was one of the last days, so it was beyond the time where we could override the veto. So that veto stood. So we don't have a chance. I don't know if that might be brought back up again next year. So, but other than that, I don't see any efforts to do what you're asking. Danny? No.
Senator Carroll and Representative Freeland, are you concerned or worried about the approximately $1.2 billion that will be lost in funding for projects in Kentucky with the loss of the Inflation Reduction Act?
I can't speak to that intelligently. Who asked that question might have some more information on that. I don't have any knowledge on that. I mean, 1.2 billion is obviously a significant amount. Our budget, general fund budget's what, about 15 billion now? But I don't know what that means and what's being considered on that, and I apologize for whoever asked that question.
Thank you. We're going to ask one more question, and then we are going to wrap it up. This is for any county officials that would like to answer. Are there any new economic development or growth opportunities in the foreseeable future, and what are the projected improvements over the next 5 years?
We discussed several things in executive session, and there's confidentiality that's attached to that. We're working on something right now pretty aggressively. It's a $250 million project, over 200 jobs. So we're constantly working on things behind the scenes that the public's not aware of, and we aggressively pursue any opportunities out there, as far as that goes.
I'll say this too. I don't think that the county gets enough credit for economic development. Honestly, what I hear is you hear about another project somewhere else usually, and that's when I hear about it. Is why are we losing all those opportunities? So let me tell you, we are not necessarily losing all of those. In 2024, just so you know, in Marshall County, we had $87.2 million in capital investment into Marshall County by businesses that created or will create 305 new jobs. So I just don't know that we do a sufficient enough job of getting that out to you guys because, and maybe we're different politicians that don't toot our own horns, but I just did it, I think. But I think it's important that we are as aggressive as any other county is in this region, and we are all focused on, we want our kids and you all. Mine are graduating in 2 days. That might make me cry just thinking about it. She keeps putting pictures on there, and I swear I'm like, don't do that anymore. None of those pictures. Anyway, we're focused on making sure that you all have somewhere to come back to. I've lived here all my life, and so our jobs again should be, let's put money into the infrastructure so that these jobs will come here, stay here, so that you will stay here if you choose to.
And I'll say this too, just echoing what they said. A lot of stuff does go on in closed session, in executive session, and there's good reason for that. And there's one in particular that I'm very, very excited about, and it might happen this year, but I can't tell you anything about it. Let's just put it that way. If it happens, it's going to be really cool. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
I just want to add one thing on the infrastructure. I think it's been touched on several times here tonight, and the need to expand, to make the county as inviting as we can for businesses. But what gets lost in that, in a lot of people's minds, is the need that we have to constantly be updating and replacing existing infrastructure. I'll give you an example of that. City of Benton, Kevin Farley can attest to, I think the cost was about $2.5 million. They had to replace the line going out Simpsonia Highway. So, all of us up here are constantly trying to add and increase service lines and increase our our sewer lines, line extensions, and do all that, but, you know, all that while we're still having to maintain what we have, which is very costly, and we're about to get into that with our bridges too, but I'll shut up now.
Thank you so much. I would now like to introduce Mackenzie Cunningham, who's going to conclude our 2025 Town Hall meeting.
This concludes our MCHS AP Government Town Hall meeting. We would like to thank the Marshall County Public Library, MediaCom, our audience members, and our elected officials for being here tonight. Stay safe and have a great night.